Batman 407 is the final part of Batman Year One, written by Frank Miller, of course, and art by Dave Miccicelli. And surprise, surprise, it's very good. I mean, there was no...
The only critique I have is followed on from the past issue and maybe 2 issues critique. It's, oh, look, the Catwoman stuff feels tacked on.
Yeah, a little bit. Do you know what's funny about it is that it almost works a little bit better because I know what that leads to in Long Halloween and stuff. Like, because they build upon like her going after Falcone a lot and the stuff that comes after. So it makes it better as an overall mythology, but as a story on its own.
But if you're just reading this story, you could cut entirely all of Selina's stuff, and you would lose nothing in regards to this story.
Yes, this is very true. And I'm just making sure I can see we're recording. I was worried that I couldn't there because I had something overlapping it. We are recording for the record. We're good, but it was a concern.
Better.
So, yeah, we start with Gordon and Essen essentially splitting up because it's the right thing to do, right? Because they know it's wrong, because he knows it's wrong. Although, much to my surprise, he's given her a bracelet because she tries to give this bracelet back, and I'm like, wait, you give her a bracelet? This got more serious in the time between issues. This is, this makes it feel even skeevier. It makes it feel even worse.
Yeah.
And it introduces this idea with the news telecast at the bottom of this man Skeevers, who's been arrested by Gordon and is a pretty big deal and could implicate Flass and the commissioner and all these people. He's a big player in the ring, but he gets let go. Harvey Dent lets him go, and it's kind of cleared very quickly why. He's intentionally let him go so Batman could spy on him and coerce him and make him scared enough to actually talk and actually spill the beans on everyone.
It's smart.
Yeah.
If a little vicious.
A little bit on the vicious side. Yeah, because he says some really scary things to him. He's like, I will maim you. I will. What was it he says to him? I know pain. You can never escape me.
Yeah, it's you can never escape me, but I know pain. Sometimes I share it with someone like you. This is dark. Yeah,
it's super dark stuff. So he's willing to testify, and that's kind of a big thing in this issue because so much of this story from the start is from Gordon's side of things has been trying to work within this corrupt system, work within these corrupt people, and he came to a head with Flass in the very first issue. He's been kind of butting heads with them the whole time, and it all kind of boils down to this final issue where the ultimate kind of like escalation of this happens, where they go after his newborn, because obviously during the course of this issue, like Barbara has her baby.
And I think we should mention the ongoing relationship with Essen, because as much as they break up on that very first page.
They're back together. Yeah, they're back together again.
The second page, I love that. The first page is dated September 2nd. The full page is dedicated to their breakup, and then the very next page is September 7th, only 5 days later, and it's them making out in the office.
Yeah, no, it's just it's good stuff. So that's kind of sets up the main thing, and basically, Loeb has photographs of him kissing Essen, and it's like, hey, you've got secrets too. It would be a shame if your wife found out about this kind of thing. And he's all smug. I think one of the best things about the art here is just how smug Loeb looks as he sits back in his chair after making this case. So Gordon finally goes to get and talk to Bruce, because he's been trying to talk to Bruce Wayne, suspecting that he could be the Batman, and he takes Barbara with him, bizarrely, because he doesn't want her thinking that he's somewhere late, suspiciously or anything like that. He wants her to know exactly where he is.
I think it's also worth mentioning she's overdue for the baby at this point as well.
Yeah.
So he doesn't want her alone worrying about that. It's more just no. If anything happens, I can take you to the hospital immediately. And
Bruce does the playboy thing. He plays the character.
He's got the model there. He's drinking the champagne at 11 a.m. or whatever it is.
Yeah, he's chuckling away. He's not taking anything seriously. Barbara thinks he's a peg. It's all good stuff. And Alfred even points out, like after they leave, like, it was a good performance. You're a proper vaudevillain and all the rest of it. Even cracks a little joke about Superman. And it's all these stuff. So then we see that the interrogation goes through and they're talking to Flass, and Flass outright basically threatens to have Skeevers killed before he can testify, and the lawyer's kind of yelling about it. But there's this great moment before this when they're driving away, where Gordon's talking about secrets and how, you know, Bruce probably has some secrets, and he just stops the car and turns and says, "Honey, there's something we have to talk about." And then I love that we see him go through with the interrogation, and he's still going after Flass. It just, you know, rather, because there is a beat like the page after, when we get to October 5th, there's a beat where you see Barbara pick up the phone, and she's like, "Yes, I know about the relationship, don't call again." You know, there's like, you know, he's taking away the ammunition. But I think what I like about it is that it's, as much as he's preemptively stopped that being like having an effect on his work, stopped that having an effect on this prosecution, that's not why he did it. No, at least not centrally.
It was the push that kind of made him come clean in the end.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you know, we open this book with him trying to break it off with Essen. He's like, "No, we have to stop," and he's a little bit weak, you know, and ultimately he goes bad to her, and it tells us how she's transferring out of Gotham to give them space, essentially.
Yeah.
And this is just this blackmail is the final push where he's like, "I can't let that affect the job now, so I'm going to just come clean."
Yeah, I mean, Gordon's a man of principle, he's a man of honor, and he's always known what he's been doing is wrong. He's always felt that. It's this giving into something. It's almost like this is also, I mean, I went into a lot last issue about how, like, Essen might be this idea of flirtation, like, going beyond what's acceptable in one facet of his life. It's kind of the precursor to him accepting Batman in a weird way. But I think here you could also say that this was Gotham getting to him in a weird way. This is the one thing he kind of let slip, and the one thing he kind of let take him over.
Yeah, I think it's temptation. It still really works in the context of, you know, her being the precursor to Batman, and this rejection of it here is not a rejection because he doesn't want it or anything like that. It's just that no, he needs to be the honest cop, and for this to work, and ultimately that's what it's going to be. You know, with Batman, even that relationship, he still needs to be the honest cop at the end of the day for the prosecutions to go through, and he needs to have that position of authority and clarity for the law. Otherwise, it's meaningless.
Yeah, that's it. I don't think it's purely like a tactics thing like that. I think it's more about how he feels about it, rather than just because he thinks about it in far in advance. Goes, "Oh, this would mean I can't do this and that."
No, I just mean thematically, as we're reading it, the thematic link between him having to give up Essen and him being this honest cop, to, you know, kind of giving up Batman in the sense of he's not going to just go down the same path and do his own thing within the police system. He's going to be the honest cop. I
think that's what I'm getting at, though, is I think you keep using the phrase honest cop, but I think the point is here is that he's going to be an honest cop in a lot of the ways you just said, but the idea being that the cop side of him is the side that he's willing to actually alter and sort of do something different in. It's the idea of being an honest husband that he needs to be. He can't not be the honest husband.
That's fair.
And that's ultimately what he makes that choice. He makes the choice where, okay, if there's going to be one side that compromises, it can't be that side of him. And he makes that choice. So, and then we have some of the Catwoman stuff where she's been stealing stuff from the rich people, and is pissed that Batman's maybe getting the credit for it on TV.
Yeah.
There's a lot of lead in here where they mention on the news that, there's the unheard of plastics. So when chemicals, they're making these plastics that are lightweight and durable, and then
can't imagine that going anywhere bad.
Yeah, and of course that leads to, you see him with the glider, the big Batwing thing, and him sort of dancing around. But he ends up crossing paths with Catwoman at Falcone's place. Falcone wants his nephew to do some dirty deeds, and Batman's listening in, and Catwoman ends up sort of ruining the whole thing by getting involved. And this even just leads to more confusion as the press think that Catwoman's working in cahoots with Batman. They even call her Batman's assistant, which she's very upset about. Might we add?
Understandably so.
Yeah. So, no, really good stuff. For the most part, but again, yeah, you probably could sort of take a lot of this out, but this is obviously where the idea is born from. The idea that they're not going to get away with this, with Gordon. So the idea to go after his child to stop this from happening. So Loeb calls Gordon, gets him out of the house so that Barbara's left alone with the baby, but he kind of understands. You know, he's smart enough to realize, wait a minute, this is so weird. Why am I being called out for this really routine, break-in? And he sees this guy in the bike go past, which actually turns out to be Bruce. It's not actually the bad guys, but it's kind of...
But it triggers it for him.
Yeah, but there is something to be said that Bruce is already on his way to sort of help with
protect.
this. He's already he's already figured out as well. He's heard what what was said in the hospital room.
It boils down to how Bruce is always ahead of Gordon, really, at the end of the day, isn't he?
But so Gordon doubles back, and they've already got the baby. And there's a great moment where after the firefight, where the mysterious man who is in shadow, and Barbara's got the gun on him, and he's like, "I won't let your boy die." So it's this race to the finish. We end up on the bridge, and Gordon's struggling with the nephew who's holding the baby at the edge of the bridge, and the baby of course falls over, and that's when Bruce just gets there in time and dives off, and we get the gorgeous silhouette shot of him catching the baby as everyone's falling.
Yeah,
everyone's falling.
Whereas it's not like a huge fall, so the others are like, it's fine, we can swim.
Yeah,
but it's it's a baby.
Yeah, and Bruce hands the baby back, and he's not in costume or anything. He's just, because it's daytime. That's something that was mentioned earlier on.
He made a big point where Alfred's like, "Shall I get the costume?" He's like, "No, never in daylight." Which it's kind of funny now, because I mean, I say that, but Dark Knight Rises, when he comes out in daytime at the end of that movie, is a huge deal. Even as comics readers, it's so rare to see, right?
Yeah. Well, even those movies make a point of saying he never does it in daytime. Dark Knight makes that point multiple times. So it's notable that he does it in Dark Knight Rises. It's a big deal thematically.
It makes that point in its own trilogy, don't get me wrong. But I mean, even as seasoned comic fans who've read a lot, it's so rare to see him in the costume in daylight. But before that.
Yeah. So, and it makes a point, Gordon's glasses get knocked over and he's practically blind without them, so he can't see the face. And he makes it clear that, whoever he's talking to, this Batman, whoever it is, he's making it clear that I can't tell who you are. I don't know who you are right now.
I don't want to see you right now.
Yeah.
It's fine. Just go.
And, we get the final page wrap up of them saying, they're prosecuting, Flash and yada, yada, yada. Loeb's, not going down, but he's getting his resignation sort of lined up with the mayor and so on. And it ends with that sort of famous moment. And do you know what's funny is I always remembered in my memory there'd been a bat signal here for this last page, and there isn't.
I see why you can think that. It's the shot is so laid out with it like designed to be in the background almost, like it's going to be there in the future.
Yeah, there's actually empty space in the panel. The rooftop shot of Gordon standing, and there's space for the bat signal. But it's basically I'm saying, there's something happening. Someone's threatened to poison the Gotham Reservoir. Calls himself the Joker, but I've got a friend showing up who may be able to help. It's just him waiting for the Batman to show up, and it's very. If you compare it to the movies, it's obviously easy to see how the end of Batman Begins took kind of a similar idea here.
It built on it, but the core the core beat of that moment is this moment here.
Yeah. So no, it's kind of the perfect ending, because the story of this book, more than anything else, is getting Gordon and Batman to a point where they're willing to work with each other.
Yeah, I think there's an argument that this is almost more of a Gordon story than it is a Batman story.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true to a point, but I don't like putting it that way, mainly because I think the whole point of focusing more on Gordon is that you have to focus on the more real character to really sell the idea of this more fantastical element. The guy who dresses up in the bat suit and does all these things. Gordon does get more panel time. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But it's all about the idea of the Batman and the city accepting him and Gordon accepting him. The Batman is the core facet that makes the whole thing kind of tick. And Gordon is this wonderful character to view it through, because he's the character who feels the need for someone like Batman. He's the character who sees the corruption. He's the character who wants to do something about it but can't. He's the character who has to try and deal with that corruption hands-on and fails. There's a lot of reasons why Gordon's the perfect lens to view this story through, and that's probably why it was picked. That's probably why Miller had the idea in the first place, was to do it from this perspective.
Yes, because he was a damn fine writer.
Once upon a time.
Yes, that's why I very explicitly said was.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't have as much to say because I think the first 3 issues I had a lot of analytical sort of things to say about the way that it flowed, panel to panel, page to page. I think this issue, if I have a complaint, is that it's maybe almost a little bit too jam-packed in terms of how much stuff it's got in there, and maybe removing the Catwoman stuff would be what lets it breathe a little bit.
I think so. I think for me as well, like it's a lighter conversation because it's the final issue. There's nothing new that it's bringing to the table in terms of themes or anything like that. It's just closing off those beats that it played up in the first 3 issues. Everything it introduced, it's paying off here. So we've kind of already spoken about all those beats, those thematic ideas over the past 3 issues. So here it is just closing them off, following through on them. They're all here, and they're all delivered on in a pretty satisfying way. It's still a really great issue.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's pretty much it. Obviously, the art's really good again. It's been very consistent throughout. A lot of atmosphere in it, if nothing else, and it is worth mentioning, I think, as well, that we end essentially. There's been so much nighttime and so much grittiness throughout the story that I think it is notable. The final showdown, that sort of the moment where Gordon kind of reconsiders how he feels about Batman, happens in daylight. I think that's a really interesting choice.
It's very much Batman stepping out into the light and showing that no, he's willing to take these steps no matter the time of day, right? He'll do what he has to do, and he'll be there regardless. It is smart to do it that way, I think.
Yeah. So no, there you go. What are you giving Batman 407?
I'm gonna give it an 8.5. I am knocking off maybe half a point for the Catwoman stuff feeling ancillary there, but other than that, pretty great.
No, I agree. 8.5. I think it's interesting that the first 2 parts of this 4-part story are like basically masterpieces of issues. And
I think we gave them like 9s or 9.5s maybe.
Yeah, I might even give one of them a 10, to be honest, if I remember right.
Well done.
And these the 3rd and 4th parts are still very, 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 very good, very, very great even. But it is notable that just if you look at the curve, if you will, the last half is slightly lower than the first half, and I wonder if that is because it doesn't introduce necessarily a new element kind of in the back half to sort of kind of respice it up a little bit again.
Arguably the element it does focus on, which is the newer element, is Catwoman, which ultimately feels like it doesn't go anywhere. It's not as satisfying as the other beats that it introduced in the first 2.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So, but no, obviously, I mean, that's a minor critique because obviously, if you take it as a whole, if you read it in one sitting as a 4-part story, it's one of the most exceptional Bat books there is. It's been used to sort of reframe how we think of the character, and has done since it came out in the mid to late 80s, and here we are.